Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut, helping you cut through the noise to get to those essential insights. Today we're diving into something I bet you've seen, maybe even felt, that slight headache from. The sheer volume of bad data visualizations out there. I mean, you know the feeling. Edward Tufte, the visualization legend from Yale, he famously said, "Power corrupts. PowerPoint corrupts absolutely."
Yeah.
And who hasn't sat through one of those hit-and-run presentations? Just slide after slide hitting you less information, more like a graphic assault, or those infographics that seem designed to confuse, not clarify. You walk away thinking, what was I supposed to get from that? It's a genuine issue.
It really is. And, the interesting thing is technology hasn't necessarily helped. In some ways, it's made it worse. Think about it. Back in the day, if you wanted a chart, you often had to, draw it by hand, painstakingly. And that process, it had this built-in friction, right? It forced you to pause, to really think through your message before committing ink to paper. But now, PFT, click, click, you can generate 100 graphs, easy, without maybe stopping to ask if any of them actually work. We're swimming in data, drowning even. And the sheer volume makes it, paradoxically, harder to communicate the important stuff, harder to find that signal in all the noise.
That sets up perfectly why we're doing this deep dive today. We're going to pull out the core lessons from Cole Nussbaumer Knaflic's brilliant book, Storytelling with Data. It's really a practical guide designed to help anyone become a clearer, more impactful communicator using numbers. So consider this your shortcut, your fast track to mastering a skill that is honestly essential in today's world.
Absolutely. Our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is to unpack Knaflic's key principles. How do you turn that raw data into a story that resonates? We'll walk you through understanding your context first, then choosing the right visual for the job. Hugely important. We'll cover eliminating clutter, that's a big one, focusing attention strategically, thinking like a designer, which is maybe a new perspective for some, and finally, pulling it all together to tell a story that doesn't just present facts, but actually drives action. And these aren't software tips, these are fundamental lessons. They apply whether you're using Excel, Tableau, whatever. Doesn't matter if you're an analyst, a manager, a student, a leader, anyone communicating with data needs this.
Okay, so by the end of this, you, our listener, won't just understand data viz better. You'll actually see data differently, everywhere. You'll walk away with a practical toolkit, ready to use, and a clear path to making your data-driven messages truly stick. Make them land. Make things happen. Let's get into it.
Right. Let's start at the very beginning, the foundation. Before you even think about charts or graphs, you need to understand your context. And Knaflic makes this really crucial distinction up front. Exploratory versus explanatory analysis. Exploratory, well, that's the digging phase. That's for us, the analysts. It's like hunting for pearls in oysters, she says. You might look at the data 100 different ways, test all sorts of hypotheses, slice and dice, just searching for those few key insights, those pearls.
And that's where the trap lies, doesn't it? After all that work opening all those oysters, you kind of want to show everyone, look at all the oysters I opened, look how thorough I was. But what happens when you actually do that? When you dump all that raw exploratory stuff on your audience?
Yeah, you just overwhelm them. You're basically making them sift through the 100 oysters to find the 2 pearls you already found. Doesn't work. So this deep dive, and Knaflic's whole method, it focuses only on the explanatory part. This means you've done the exploring. You've found your pearls. You have a specific point, a story you need to communicate. It's about polishing those 2 pearls, presenting them clearly, making them easy to digest, leading your audience to understand, and then hopefully to act, not making them relive your entire analysis journey. So once you're clear, okay, I'm explaining that, not exploring. There are 3 key questions you must answer before you make anything visual. Who, what, and how. Sounds simple, but they're critical. First, who is your audience? And really think about this. Not just their job title. What's their background? What do they actually care about? What are their pressures? And importantly, how do they see you? Do you have established credibility? Or do you need to build that trust first? Understanding this helps you tailor everything, find that common ground. Second, and this is maybe the most important, what do you want them to know or do? This isn't just about sharing interesting facts. What's the point? What's your call to action? As the analyst, you know the data best. You should have a perspective. Take a stand. Use strong action words. Do you want them to accept something? Influence someone? Recommend a change? Secure a budget? Even if you can't directly ask for action, guide the discussion. Propose next steps. If you don't have a clear so what, you just get, oh, that's interesting, and nothing changes. And third, how will you communicate? The medium matters. A live presentation. You have more control, you can answer questions. A written report or email. People consume it differently, maybe jumping around. Needs more self-contained detail. And trying to make one thing serve both purposes, that dreaded slide enrichment, it usually fails at both. It's either too dense for a presentation or too sparse for a document.
That slide doing trap is so common. Okay, let's use the book's example, the fourth grade science teacher. It makes it really clear. So she ran a pilot summer program, wants funding to continue. Who is the audience? Not the kids, not the parents. It's the budget committee. That changes everything. What does she want them to do? Simple. Know the pilot worked, see the success, and approve the budget to continue it. Crystal clear action. And how? How will she show it? Using the survey data before and after the program, showing that shift in attitudes towards science. See? When you break it down, it clarifies everything.
And it really does. And it underlines the data. It's just the evidence. It supports the story you're building around it. It isn't the story itself. Your audience and your what dictate which data is relevant. And a quick ethical point here. While you focus, you can't mislead by leaving out crucial contradictory data. That's risky. Lose credibility fast if they spot it. You guide, you don't manipulate. Okay, so you've nailed down the who, what, and how. Now you need to distill your message. Get it super concise. This is where the 3-minute story and the big idea come in. You know that quote from Blaise Pascal? I would have written a shorter letter, but did not have the time. Huh. It's true. Being concise is hard work. It takes time and real mental effort. The 3-minute story is exactly that. If you only had 3 minutes, elevator pitch style, what's the absolute core message? It forces you to cut everything non-essential, just the absolute must-knows. And it's freeing. Suddenly you're not tied just to your slides. Meeting gets cut short. Boss grabs you in the hall. You're ready. And a big idea, that takes it even further. One single sentence. Nancy Duarte talks about this. It has to do 3 things. Articulate your unique viewpoint. Convey what's at stake. Why should they care? And it must be a complete sentence. That sentence becomes your anchor, your guiding star for everything that follows.
That's powerful. It really forces clarity. Let's try it with the science teacher again. Her 3-minute story might be, okay, incoming 4th graders often dislike science. We ran a pilot program for early exposure. Surveys showed a huge shift from 40% just okay with science before to nearly 70% interested or excited after. So we recommend continuing and expanding. We need X dollars. Boom. And the big idea. Maybe. The pilot summer learning program successfully improves student science perceptions, so we recommend continuing it. Please approve our budget request. 1 sentence. Packs a punch.
It really does. And when you have that clarity, building the actual presentation or report, so much easier. You have your roadmap, which leads perfectly to the next step, storyboarding. This might be the single most important thing you do up front for structure. It's your visual outline.
And the advice here is key. Start low-tech. Whiteboard, Post-it notes, paper. Stay away from the computer for now. Why? Because it's so easy to just start making slides without thinking about the flow, right? You end up with this bloated deck. And let's be honest, we get attached to stuff we make on the computer. It's much easier to crumple up a Post-it note representing a weak point than to delete a slide you spent an hour on.
So true. For the science teacher, the storyboard might be simple. Post-it 1, the problem. Post-it 2, pilot program details. Post-it 3, before data. Post-it 4, after data. Post-it 5, recommendation ask. Or maybe she puts the big idea right at the start. Post-it 1, big idea. Then the supporting points, easy to rearrange, easy to refine.
So taking this pause up front, understanding context, boiling down the message, storyboarding low-tech it might feel like it's slowing you down initially, but really it saves so much time later. It ensures you're clear, purposeful, and way more likely to actually get your message across effectively. It's a smart investment of time.
Okay, foundation laid. Context clear, story outlined. Now we get to the visuals themselves. Choosing the right display. Good news first. Even though there are tons of chart types, a small handful will cover like 90% of your needs. Think about how we process info. We have our verbal system, we read text, tables, and our visual system processing images, shapes, colors much faster. Good graphs tap into that visual system. Let's start super simple. Simple text. Sometimes, if you just have 1 or 2 key numbers, just feed them clearly. No chart needed, don't overcomplicate. Then tables. They use our verbal system, we read them. Great for mixed audiences needing specific lookup values or multiple units of measure, but big warning, usually terrible for live presentations. Why? Because your audience starts reading the table and they stop listening to you completely. Better to put detailed tables in an appendix. Pull out only the key takeaway for your slide. A related type is the heat map. It's basically a table, but it uses color intensity in the cells to show relative magnitude, so it blends detail with a quick visual cue. Lets you spot patterns easily. Just always include a clear legend so people know what the colors mean. Okay, on to graphs. These tap into that faster visual processing. Let's talk points, lines, and bars mainly. Scatter plots are good for showing relationships between 2 different things, say Cost per mile versus miles driven. You can see correlations, clusters. They're maybe less common in general business reports, sometimes seen as a bit more academic or complex. Line graphs, your absolute workhorse for continuous data, especially time series, sales over months, website traffic, temperature, anything that flows. The line connecting the dots implies that continuous relationship. You can show one line, two, multiple. You can even show ranges like min, average, max wait times on one graph. Very versatile. Slope graphs are a really neat variation. Perfect when you're comparing just 2 points in time or two specific states across several categories, like employee feedback scores in 2014 versus 2015. The slope of the line for each category instantly shows you the change: increase, decrease, stayed flat. Very intuitive for showing relative change. And then bar charts, vertical and horizontal, absolutely essential. Everyone knows how to read them, and our eyes are great at comparing the lengths of bars that start from the same point. Which brings us to the cardinal rule. Bar charts must have a zero baseline, always.
Ah, yes. The zero baseline rule. This is where things go so wrong sometimes, isn't it? The famous Fox News example comes to mind, showing tax rates 35%, VRS 39.6%. By starting the axis at 34%, the bar for 39.6% looked HUG, like a massive increase. Visually, it was like a 460% jump. But when you redraw it correctly, starting that's at zero, the actual increase looks tiny, like the 13%. It really is. Starting the axis elsewhere is just misleading. Deceptive, really.
Exactly. It completely distorts the visual comparison. So, non-negotiable for bars, zero baseline. Now, this rule doesn't apply to line graphs there. You're focused on trend and relative position. But even with lines, be careful not to zoom in too much, as that can also exaggerate small fluctuations. Quick note on bar width, make them a bit wider than the space between them. Not so wide you start comparing area, just length. Kind of a Goldilocks thing. Now, if I had to pick just one go-to chart for categories, horizontal bar chart. Every time. Why? It handles long category names so much better. We read left to right, so the label is right there, easy to read. Your eyes hit the category before the data bar. Makes it super legible. Stacked bars, vertical or horizontal, are good for showing the total and the parts that make it up. But be careful comparing the inner segments across different bars. Because they don't share a common baseline, it's hard to judge their relative size accurately. The exception is the bottom segment, always starts at 0, and 100% stacked bars, where the top also aligns at 100%. Waterfall charts. These are great for showing how you get from a starting value to an ending value through a series of increases and decreases. Think about showing changes in employee numbers. Start count plus hires minus departures equals end count. Very clear visual for contributions to a net change. And finally, area graphs. Generally, I'd say use with caution. Our eyes aren't great at accurately judging 2D area for quantity. It can be harder to read than lines or bars. May be useful sometimes if you have vastly different magnitudes to show and space is tight. But usually there's a better option. Okay, now for the fun part. Visuals to actively avoid. My number one piece of advice, many share the sentiment. Pie charts are evil.
I love that. Pie charts are evil, and it's so often true. That supplier market share example in the book nails it. You look at that 3D tilted pie, you try to quickly see who's biggest. Your eye probably goes to supplier B, that blue slice at the bottom right, looks biggest, but then you see the labels. Supplier B is 31%. Supplier A, which looks smaller, is actually 34%. The perspective totally messes with your perception.
Exactly. Problem one. The 3D and the tilt. It distorts everything. Pieces in front look bigger, pieces in back look smaller. So rule number one for any graph, no, 3D, ever. It adds clutter, it skews the numbers. Just don't. Even if you flatten the pie, our eyes are just bad at comparing angles and areas accurately, especially when the slices are close in size. You end up needing labels for everything anyway, so what's the visual doing?
So if pies are out, what's the fix? What should we use instead?
Easy. Horizontal bar chart lines everything up on a common baseline. Simple, clear, accurate comparison. Instantly see who's biggest and by how much. And for the same reason, avoid donut charts. Comparing arc lengths is just as hard as comparing angles. Stick to bars. And just to hammer it home again, never use 3D on any chart. It never helps. It always distorts, always adds clutter. Avoid, like Excel's 3D bars sometimes calculate height weirdly based on some invisible plane. It's just asking for trouble and misrepresentation. One more to be wary of. A secondary y-axis, plotting two different scales, like dollars and percentages, on the same chart area. It forces the audience to work really hard. Okay, which line goes with which axis? It ends cognitive load, increases the risk of misinterpretation. Better options. 1. Label data points directly if specific values matter. Forget the second axis. 2. Pull the graphs apart vertically. Two separate graphs, each with its own left y-axis, but sharing the same x-axis below. Much clearer for comparing trends. Don't try to link axes by color. Color has better uses. So the big takeaway for choosing visuals, keep it simple. Choose what's easiest for your audience to read and understand. Full stop. And don't just guess. Test it out. Show your draft visual to someone fresh. Ask them what they see, what stands out, what's confusing. Their feedback is gold.
Right. We've picked our visual. Now let's polish it. Let's refine. And the next big lesson is clutter is your enemy. What's clutter? Basically, anything visual that takes up space but doesn't actually help people understand the data better. In fact, it does the opposite. It increases cognitive load, makes their brain work harder just to process the image before they even get to the message. Tufte called it the data-ink ratio. You want ink showing data, not decoration. Duarte calls it signal-to-noise ratio. More signal, less noise.
Yeah, you feel it instantly, don't you? You see a cluttered slide and just your brain kind of recoils. This looks complicated.
Yeah.
And that discomfort, that visual overload, it makes people tune out. You lose them right at the start before they even engage with your point. It's like trying to have conversation in a really loud, crowded bar.
Exactly. So how do we fight clutter? We can use the Gestalt principles of visual perception. These are basically rules about how our brains automatically group visual elements. Understanding them helps us design with how people naturally see. Let's hit the key ones. Proximity. Things close together look like they belong together. So put labels right next to the data they describe. Simple. Powerful. Similarity. Things that look alike, same color, shape, size, are seen as a group. Use consistent color for related things, like a data line and its label. Continuity. Our eyes like to follow smooth lines. This means you can often remove things like chart borders or grid lines, and people will still perceive the overall shape or trend just fine. Enclosure. Things inside a boundary are seen as a group. You can use subtle shading to group related items, like actual versus forecast data, or put a box around key annotations.
Let's walk through that IT ticket trend chart example again. The ball 4 is usually a mess, right? Default software settings. So step 1, remove the chart border. Brain fills it in, closure. Step 2, remove grid lines. Eyes still follow the line, continuity. Step 3, remove data markers unless you need them for emphasis. Step 4, clean up axis labels, maybe make them lighter gray, less prominent. Then, the big moves. Label the data directly on a line, proximity, instead of a separate legend, and make the label match the line color, similarity. The change is dramatic, from chaos to clarity. The trend just pops.
It's amazing, isn't it? Such small changes, huge impact. Okay, next up for visual order. Alignment and white space. Good design should almost disappear. It just lets the information flow. But lack of order, that's jarring. Makes people work too hard. Alignment might be the single most effective tweak. Avoid center-aligned text. Left or right justification creates clean vertical lines. Much easier on the eye. Use your software's alignment tools.
And white space. People seem afraid of it sometimes. Like every pixel needs content. But it's like pauses in speaking, right? Someone talks nonstop, no breaks. You get overwhelmed. Same with the chart, crammed full of stuff. No breathing room. It feels stressful. Look like that run-on sentence analogy. Just keeps going and you lose the thread. But a dramatic pause, like saying death to pie charts.
Yeah.
Then silence gets attention. White space does that visually.
It really does. Strategically, white space draws attention to the non-white parts. So keep margins clear. Don't cram things edge to edge. Size visuals appropriately. And if something is really, really important, give it its own space. Maybe its own slide. Let it stand out. Another key refinement. Strategic use of contrast. If everything is shouting for attention, tons of bright colors, different shapes, then nothing stands out. It's visual chaos.
Oh, yeah, that retailer-weighted performance index example. The before was just a jumble, different colored shapes, lines everywhere representing our business versus competitors. It was genuinely exhausting to look at. You couldn't even easily find our business in the mess. Critical info, totally lost.
And the after. Total transformation. Clean horizontal bars. All positive values for easy comparison. Our business is a clear, distinct blue. All competitors, muted gray. Instantly, your eye goes to the blue bars. You can easily compare your performance across categories and see how you stack up against the gray bars competitors. The contrast does the work for you. This also shows sometimes redundant things aren't clutter. If an axis helps even though points are labeled and it aids clarity, keep it. Context matters. Okay, building on contrast. Focusing attention using pre-attentive attributes. These are visual properties. Our brain processes super fast, like a fraction of a second, before conscious thought. They're vital for two things: grabbing attention quickly and creating a visual hierarchy guiding the eye where to look first, second, third. Things like size, color, hue and intensity, and position are really strong pre-attentive attributes. Line width, shape, and closure work too.
It's like that count the threes exercise. Page full of random numbers. Count the threes. Takes effort. Scan. Search. But make all the threes bright red. Bam! You see them instantly, effortlessly. That's pre-attentive processing. Huge shortcut for the brain.
Exactly. And you can combine them, make something bold and a different color. That's a really strong signal. Think back to the IT ticket example. We'll push everything else to the background. gray. Then we highlight one line with color or add a single data label to a key point. That becomes the focal point. Look here. Signal. Quick warning though. Highlighting one thing inherently makes other things less visible. So in exploratory analysis, you use these sparingly, if at all. You don't want to bias yourself. But in explanatory analysis, when you have a specific story, you leverage these attributes. You want to guide the audience's focus. Let's talk specifically about size and color. Size, bigger things seem more important. Simple as that. If it's critical, make it B. Remember that Google dashboard story. Sizing was based on data availability, not importance. So execs spent ages discussing minor stuff because it was visually prominent. Design choices have consequences. Make them intentional. And color, hugely powerful, processed instantly, can guide the eye, evoke emotion. Think about that country sales rank heat map, random rainbow colors. Eye darts everywhere, confused, but varying shades of one color. Darker means higher rank, instantly understandable, conveys quantitative meaning. Use color sparingly, like maybe 10% of the visual max. Use it consistently. Avoid those default rainbow palettes for categories they just compete. And critically, check for color blindness. Use simulators like VisCheck. Ensure your color choices work for everyone. About 8% of men have some form of color blindness. You can't ignore it. Also, think tone. Hot pink for a financial report? Probably not. But maybe for pop culture data, gray and black can feel clinical, blue can feel friendly. Choose colors that match the message's tone. And brand colors. Use one or two strategically as your look here signal. Mute the rest. Sometimes brand colors might not have enough contrast, so you might need to adjust slightly for clarity. Finally, position on the page. We read top left, then generally zigzag down, that top left corner. Prime real estate. Put your most important element there, the main takeaway, the title, the key number. Don't make people hunt for it. And don't design against the natural flow, like starting a process chart at the bottom right. It just feels wrong. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. We've covered choosing and refining visuals. Now let's elevate our thinking. Let's think like a designer. There's this famous phrase, form follows function. What does that mean for us? It means first, figure out what you need your audience to do with the data. That's the function. Then design a visual, the form, that makes that task as easy and clear as possible. It's not just about aesthetics, it's about usability. Good design uses affordances, visual cues that suggest how to interact with something. For data viz, this means, first, highlight the important stuff. We've talked about pre-attentive attributes. Use them strategically. Bold text is good. Uppercase for short titles. Color sparingly. Size matters. Just don't overdo it. Keep highlighted elements under 10%. Avoid flashing or blinking. Second, eliminate distractions. Remember Saint-Exupéry. Perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. This is key. Be ruthless. Ask, does this element help clarify the message? If not, does it need to be there for context? If it's neither clarifying nor essential context, get rid of it. Summarize details if granularity isn't needed. Push necessary but secondary info like data sources to the background with light gray. Use appendices.
That idea of distinguishing distractions from necessary context is really useful. That before and after for the new marriage rates chart shows this perfectly. The before bar chart was just busy. Switching to a clean line graph and stripping out all the extra ink, grid lines, markers, complex labels, suddenly the trend is crystal clear. You removed everything that wasn't the core message.
Exactly. It lets the signal shine through, which leads to the third affordance. Create a clear visual hierarchy. Use those pre-attentive attributes, size, color, position, to guide the eye. Make it obvious what to look at first, second, third. Lead them through the information deliberately.
Yeah, like in that issues versus satisfaction by model scatterplot example, a good hierarchy means your eye might go title first, then maybe the quadrant labels, high issues, low satisfaction, then perhaps the specific product models highlighted in color. Even if people scan slightly differently, there's a clear intended path, not just random scanning of dots.
Next principle of design thinking, accessibility. This means making your visuals understandable to people with varied backgrounds and technical skills. It's not about dumbing things down. It's about avoiding needless complexity or jargon that excludes parts of your audience. Like that PhD example, brilliant guy, but the language was so academic it lost people. The responsibility is on us to be clear. Text is your friend here. Use clear labels, concise explanations. Action titles on slides, spending exceeds budget, is much better than just budget. Look at the final IT ticket example again. Adding that clear title, access titles, helpful annotations, maybe a footnote with the source, it makes it so much more accessible and self-contained. And don't dismiss aesthetics. Things that look good are simply more pleasant to engage with. It builds goodwill. Think about that Methods soap bottle anecdote. People liked the design so much they apparently tolerated minor leaks for a while. good aesthetics buys you patience. If your visuals look clean, considered professional. People are more likely to trust the information and engage positively. Not naturally artistic, no problem. Find examples you like. Mimic them. Build a swipe file of effective visuals. You can take a clunky chart, like that US population versus our customers breakdown, and make it look so much better and clearer, just by applying good alignment, strategic color, and white space. Aesthetics often enhances clarity. Finally, when you're trying to implement these better practices in an organization, you need strategies for gaining audience acceptance. People can be resistant to change, so articulate the benefits clearly. This new format makes it much faster to see X, shows side-by-side comparisons, old way versus new way, maybe offer a couple of options and ask for input. Get influential people involved early, get their feedback, make them feel part of the change. That helps build buy-in. Okay, now for the really powerful stuff. The magic of story. Think about Little Red Riding Hood. Close your eyes, you can probably recall the basics, right? The path, the wolf, grandma, the woodsman.
Yeah, absolutely. It's ingrained. And it's not just that we remember it, it's how stories work. That repetition over years, yes, but also that structure, beginning, middle, end, conflict, resolution, it makes things stick. Data alone rarely does that. Stories move people.
Precisely. Aristotle knew it. Beginning setup, middle conflict, end resolution. It's a timeless structure. Works for plays, works for presentations. Robert McKee, the screenwriting guru, makes this great point. Conventional rhetoric facts, bullet points, it engages the intellect, but people argue with it in their heads. It doesn't often inspire action.
Right. Imagine Red Riding Hood as bullet points. Girl walks, meets wolf, wolf deception, consumption event, intervention, outcome positive, all facts, utterly boring, no impact.
Exactly. Story, McKee says, unites an idea with an emotion. That's the key. It engages on a totally different level. And writers like Kurt Vonnegut give great advice that applies here too. Care about your topic, keep it simple, be brave enough to cut things out, sound like yourself, say what you mean, and pity the readers, be empathetic, make it easy for them. So, how do we build our data story? The beginning. Set the scene, establish the status quo, the what is, then introduce the problem, the tension, the opportunity, the what could be. Make it relevant to your audience, make it their problem. The middle, this is where you build the case for what could be. Convince them action is needed, provide background, context, examples. Bring in the data as evidence. Show consequences of inaction. Explore options. Highlight benefits of your solution. Make the story about them and how they can resolve the tension. A helpful tip. Try writing the key headlines or takeaways for the section first, like a mini storyboard, to ensure logical flow. The end. Your clear call to action. What must they know? What must they do? This is the resolution you're driving towards. Now, the narrative structure itself matters. The actual words spoken or written that guide the audience. A great visual needs a great narrative. Think about narrative flow, the order they experience it. Chronological works well sometimes. Follow your analysis. Problem, data, analysis, findings, action. Good for building credibility, or if the process itself is important to the audience. Or you can lead with the ending. Start with the call to action, the main point. Then provide the key supporting evidence. Great if you have trust or if the audience just wants the bottom line fast. Benefit. They know immediately why they should care and what's expected. Pro tip. Tell them your structure up front. I'm going to start with our recommendation, then show you why. And consider spoken versus written narrative. Live presentation. You get reinforcement, see and hear, can react to the room. Challenge. Keep slides clean. Manage questions. Written report. Narrative is all in the text. Needs absolute clarity. Benefit. People can navigate to sections they need if structured well. Don't forget the power of repetition. Like Red Riding Hood, repeating key messages helps them stick. Nancy Duarte talks about creating repeatable sound bites.
The old bing bang bongo from school days, right? Tell them what you're going to tell them. Bing, the intro exec summary. Tell them bang main content. Tell them what you told them. Bongo, the conclusion call to action. Simple. Effective structure. Works every time.
It really does. And a few final tactics for clarity. Horizontal logic. Read just the slide titles in order. Does it tell a coherent story? Use action titles. Vertical logic. Everything on a single slide supports its title and vice versa. No random stuff. Self-contained message per slide. Reverse storyboarding. After drafting, go through page by page. Write down the main point of each. Does that list match your original storyboard? Great check. And maybe the most valuable, get a fresh perspective. Ask someone unfamiliar with your work to look at it. What do they see first? What's unclear? Where do they get stuck? Their unbiased view is priceless for finding your blind spots.
Okay, let's bring all these threads together. The book has this great end-to-end example, analyzing the average retail price over time for 5 products. The before chart is classic default Excel. Cluttered lines, confusing colors, just raw data dumped onto a page, simply showing data.
Right. And the after demonstrates applying all 6 lessons beautifully. First, context. Audience is the pricing team. Goal is to inform new product price. Big idea is recommending a price range based on competitors. That leads to choosing the right visual, a line graph, obviously, for trends over time. Then, eliminate clutter. Strip away Excel defaults. Use clean lines, muted background elements. Then, focus attention. Use color strategically to highlight certain products or the point where prices converge. Add labels only where needed. Guide the eye. Then, think like a designer. Add clear titles. Align everything meticulously. Create hierarchy. Make it accessible and aesthetically pleasing. And finally, tell a story. Don't just show the graph. Walk the audience through it. Product A started high, then B came in lower. C tracked here. Notice how they all converged around year 3. This suggests a price range for our new product between X and Y. Build the narrative logically.
And looking at that before and after visual, wow, it's night and day. From incomprehensible spaghetti lines to a clear, compelling insight. It truly shows the power of shifting from just showing data to actively storytelling with data.
It really crystallizes the whole process. So for you listening, what's your path forward? Well, listening is great, but doing is where the learning sticks. Practice. Apply these lessons. Maybe start small. Improve one chart in your next report. Or tackle a whole project using this framework. First, learn your tools well. Excel, Tableau, Python, whatever you use. Get comfortable with it so the tool isn't the bottleneck. Remember, fancy tools aren't required. Knaflic uses Excel for many examples. Fundamentals matter more. Second, iterate and seek feedback. It's not a one-shot deal. Sketch ideas on paper first. Brainstorm freely. Use that optometrist approach, A vs B, which is clearer. Make one change at a time. And critically, ask for feedback. Fresh eyes are invaluable. Find a colleague, buy them coffee, ask them to poke holes in your visual. Third, devote time. This takes effort. Understanding context, crafting the message, designing, refining, storytelling, it's not instant. But this communication piece, it's often the only part of your hard work the audience sees. So budget time for it. It deserves it. Fourth, seek inspiration. Don't reinvent the wheel. Find effective visuals you admire, emulate them. Build your own library of good examples. Check out blogs like Flowing Data, Storytelling with Data Itself, Makeover Monday challenges. Learn from others and have fun. Find your style, maybe muted tones with one bright accent color. Just ensure style enhances clarity, doesn't obscure it. And finally, think about building competency in your team or organization. How can you spread these skills? Maybe start a book club, run some internal workshops, do your own Makeover Monday, encourage peer feedback. You could also invest in developing internal experts. Or strategically bring in external help for key projects and learn from them. Often, a mix is best. Basic skills for everyone, support for specialists, learn from outsiders. #tag outro.
Okay, let's quickly recap those 6 core lessons we covered today. Your roadmap to effective data storytelling. 1. Understand the context. Always start with who, what, and how, foundational. 2. Choose an appropriate visual display. Know your charts, lines, bars, tables. And know to avoid pies or evil. No 3D. 3. Eliminate clutter. Reduce cognitive load. Use Gestalt principles, alignment, white space contrast. Less is often more. 4. Focus attention where you want it. Use those powerful pre-attentive attributes, size, color, position strategically. Guide their eyes. 5. Think like a designer. Form follows function. Use affordances, ensure accessibility, aim for good aesthetics, plan for acceptance. And 6, the big one, tell a story. Craft that beginning, middle, end. Use narrative flow, repetition, logical structure. Make your data meaningful.
You really do have a solid foundation now. Examples to follow, concrete steps you can take. You have a new lens for looking at data, honestly. You might never look at a graph the same way again. You might feel slightly ruined because you'll start seeing ineffective visuals everywhere. But that's a good thing. It means you're seeing clearly now. You're equipped to do better, to communicate with impact.
Because there is a story in your data. Your job isn't just to show numbers anymore. It's to design visuals thoughtfully, to impart information clearly, to incite action. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, go forth and tell your stories with data.